Now, where do we begin? There's been a certain amount of negativity among some fans. Admittedly, not all. I mean, there's been some who've been saying, give Alex a chance. It's not all about Alex, the FWA. But
that was my mum.
But I mean, I don't have any direct quotes here. But you've been accused of being only in wrestling for the money. You're a money grabber. You're someone with a very inflated sense of your own importance. Some people have said. I mean, how do you? Well, A, how do you react to those claims? And B, do you regret that? Certainly for the first few days or weeks of the FWA's being announced, more of the conversation was about you than about the company.
To answer your last question first, not at all, because I think if anything draws attention to it, like I had a meeting with somebody who works for the BBC, was at Glastonbury doing the music video compilation for the BBC, and he wants to do our music videos for FWA. Now, he jumped in on the forum to defend me because he called me 9 years ago when I was running a wrestling school, and I walked out of my class for an hour and left somebody else running it, one of the assistant instructors, so I could talk to him because he wanted to follow a wrestling career. And then obviously he saw the controversy on the forum, jumped in, and he's only had a good, even back in the days when I was apparently, a very bad person, he had a good experience with me, so he defended me on the forum and said, you know what, actually I want to get involved with this and stuff. So it brings a lot of, I think anything that gets people talking about it is good. There comes a point where it stops being positive, and we had to obviously make a sort of statement, and I mean, I was told, actually our office manager Helen told me you shouldn't post in the forum, and it's funny, I've been told that by about 150 people, but it's the first time I really listened, and actually one of the guys on the forum really helped me, because he said, because of my promotional approach, that he's exactly, because until that point, until he said what I'm about to say, it was a debate. I was, because Alex Shane is not. Alex Shane is a franchise to me. It's, as a wrestler, as a promoter, as a teacher. But also, they're saying stuff. This is my living, and I'll get to that in a second. And when people are saying stuff that isn't true, and it's real defamation of character, I'm not going. I don't. You'll notice I'm not. Somebody's not kicking me in the nuts, and I'm going and punching them in the face. I'm just saying, well, it's not fair to kick me in the nuts, because this, I don't, say stuff about them, because that's just petty. When this dude said on there that because of my promotional approach or whatever, I deserve to die the most painful of all deaths. Reap it, karma boy. I've probably had about 50 people that said, yeah, I saw that was pretty strong. And if you notice, I've never posted again, because if I was having a debate with Albert Einstein about the theory of relativity, and just at a point where we were getting to, to the crunch, he went, la, 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 I'm not listening. I realise I'm not having a debate with, I'm not saying an intelligent human being, because he is an intelligent human being, but he doesn't want to, he's so fixed in what he's saying that he's not, so, and that's when I thought, you know what, actually, why am I debating this with a faceless person in the forum? It's not the right thing to do.
Okay, but people aside who are sort of taking it too far.
Oh yeah. I was going to get to that next.
Can we go one by one?
Yeah, of course.
So,
yeah.
The money grabbing.
Yeah. I just mentioned that incident because it sort of gives you that. I wanted to take you into the mind of some of the people on the forum, if they generally believe that anything someone's done in wrestling, because what you're basing it on is people who say on that forum, right? So I'm giving you an example of an extreme case, but in that person's mind, what some stuff that I've done in wrestling is it's equal to a crime that would make someone. Basically, my point is that in his eyes, my actions in wrestling make me deserve to die the most painful of all deaths, which is pretty full on. So I'm taking you into the mind of those kind of, that's fair enough. The money grabbing thing, let me tell you something, because I know the jobs in wrestling thing is going to come up. And I was having this discussion with somebody the other day, and I thought, you know what, I've never actually really said this stuff, but I just want to tell you about how I got into wrestling and some realisations that I've had about when people say about money grabbing and this stuff, right? First of all, when I got into wrestling, I was 13 years of age, okay? I washed cars. I can't, I've said it multiple times, but my pocket money was £2.50 a week. It cost me £20 to get on the train to Folkestone in Kent, which from London to Folkestone is about 3 hours, right? And £10 to train. That's £30 a week. So I was going every week. So that £27.50 had to come from somewhere. So I washed cars when I was 13. That's what I did. I washed cars, and I got the money to go to wrestling training. So when I got to wrestling training, nobody wanted me there, because at that point it was still kids. They don't want kids wrestling. I was the youngest person at my school. Doug had started young. Doug was 19. I was 13. There's a big difference. Doug was technically almost, I guess he was an adult almost. So I was not. I was a teenager. So I would go down to Folkestone every week, pay my money to train, Then after a certain point, I would teach people because the person running the school there didn't like to teach. I was basically self-taught. It's not like when people go to a good school now and they get taught. From about the third session, I just did what I saw on television in a ring while somebody sat there in the corner eating cakes. Everything I'm going to tell you now, you can check with Doug, Johnny, Jody, any of these people. But I had nowhere else to go because of my home life and my relationship with my dad. At that age, you need a positive male role model. That's why I got into wrestling, because it's not they're positive male role models, but when you're a teenage boy, they are. I remember the first time I saw my coach, it was the first wrestler I'd sort of seen not at a show. And so what happened was every week I'm going to training, then I'm taking the training, then I'm working on shows, sometimes 5 shows a week when we had a tour. I'm paying for my own expenses to get to those shows. I'm basically not getting paid to be on the shows. And also because I was divvy enough, I was like almost like the special needs kid, but I wasn't special needs. I was just a teenager who could be manipulated. I would put rings up on my own. I'd get dropped off at a venue with a ring and be told that's got to be up in 2 hours, right? I've been in lift shafts that have got asbestos in that, there's no way if I could never fit in there now. But I'd been put up in these lift shafts where the ring was kept at 4 o'clock in the morning after a show, being told, and I don't mind saying this on and I tell you, this is one of the big confessions, but it's not. I've done nothing wrong here, but I was staying at the house, right, where it all happened, where basically all the wrestlers would go and stay and stuff, and I used to fall asleep because I was 13. I'm around there with people in their 30s, right? If I fell asleep, I'd get hit with a stick and be made to take amphetamine, right, to stay awake, right? And then that happened. You know how long? 5 years of my life, right? I had my GCSEs fell on the same day as shows, so I was told by my coach, you can either go to those exams and I'll take you off the shows, or you can just not go. So my mum said, if you don't go to your exam, I'm going to kick you out of home. Do you know what my coach said to me? It's all right, you can live in my shed. So that's child abuse, right? I was then told at 17, I'm just painting the picture here. I was then told at 17, despite all that loyalty, if I didn't buy and take steroids, I would no longer be on the show. So I had my first injection of steroids when I was 17. I'm just, I know this, everyone's going to say, oh, you shouldn't be saying this on an interview, but it's the truth, and the truth can't hurt you, right? So I did that, fucked up my hormones, and that was my influence in wrestling, right? And I've committed. Even though all that stuff happened in my first 5 years, I've never left wrestling. I've always been in wrestling, right? I've not committed. If somebody works in a supermarket in Waitrose for 17 years, even if they weren't the manager, they deserve to make a living from it. Now, I don't think wrestling owes me a living, but I tell you one thing, when the day comes when you can look at yourself in the mirror and say you have done more for the industry as a whole than you have for yourself, right? If you can look at your own career as a performer and say, I have benefited other people's careers more than my own, then you deserve to get money from wrestling. But I do just want to make it clear, once and for all, that I'm not saying at all that I believe anybody should go through that sort of stuff. I don't believe that paying your dues the way it used to be done needs to be done now. But I'm just saying that I think there needs to be a certain level of passion and commitment shown by people that get put in, definitely in the highest positions on a wrestling card, whether it be as a promoter or as a main event wrestler. But I also believe that people just sort of breaking in, it's very easy to say, oh, I really want to be involved in wrestling. I love it because it's something you enjoy watching. And then you get put in a position of trust, and you think, well, I've done it now. I can just walk away, and you can leave somebody really in the shit. And wrestling, particularly British wrestling, is not at the point where we can afford to be left in that position. If a promoter decides that there's 20 spots on that card for wrestlers and maybe ring crew and ring announcer, and one of those vital people decide not to show because they just can't be bothered, then I think that then the whole thing, this whole sort of house of cards falls apart. So I do think that showing a little bit of commitment, not even a little bit, showing that you have a real commitment and passion is important. But I'm definitely not saying that I believe the way it used to be done is the way it should be done now.